Mela, let's get this started. Welcome to our first Newsweek. A new chapter in activism for Robert Aquilina, the former president of Repubblica, now represents Fondazione Falcone in Malta.
And 30 years of activism. Movement Graffiti is celebrating its anniversary with an exhibition in Valletta. Get settled in. This is what our new weekly show looks like. We'll be bringing you a selection of news items every Friday evening. We pick stories that we believe we are best placed to inform you about, and we will honestly tell you what we think of those stories. Let's get right into it.
Well, new programs like this one are only possible through your support. And thank you for supporting us by donating in our current crowdfunding campaign. Please keep it going. You'll find the link right next to this video. Julian.
Yesterday evening, we were present for the well-attended launch of an exhibition organized by Movement Graffiti. This exhibition was organized to celebrate 30 years of graffiti pissing off the powers that be. The exhibition showcases the leftist group's colorful history as it grew from a small group of activists to a household name in Malta.
Well, happy birthday, Movement Graffiti. The NGO has launched an exhibition documenting 3 decades of its activism. It all revolves around one question, fein conto. Where were you? Where were you when it happened? And what happened in those 30 years of Movement Graffiti was quite a lot. The exhibition at Società Dante Alighieri in Valletta shows snapshots and key moments of the movement's journey. Its fight for social justice, the environment, civil liberties and women's rights. And against racism, sexism, concrete and corruption. Well, Julian, you have been part of Movement Graffiti actually, so how did you experience last night?
Well, I feel like last night was very emotional on a personal level, of course, because I've been involved for a while now, and it was nice to see the community still gathering and prospering around graffiti. It's no longer just the small group of activists we used to be way back when. It is now, as we said, a household name, well and truly in the full definition of the word.
It was also very nice to socialize a bit again.
Yes, finally.
Especially after your accident, you couldn't do much.
It was nice to get around, though the stairs did kill me, I have to admit. But it was a great event.
Especially when you are among people who are working towards the same cause, right?
Exactly. Before moving on to today's main feature, let's have a brief look at this week's international headlines. Of course, we cannot talk about the news without referring to Donald Trump's landslide victory in the US presidential elections. Michael, what was your first response to these results?
Well, first of all, my social media feed, all of them, all the feeds got flooded with reactions.
Absolutely,
from shocked to, oh, I'm not surprised, and sometimes even both reactions from the very same person,
Yes.
which was hilarious. And of course, a lot of congratulations, like people who live in Malta celebrating Trump's comeback. Why? Some
Why?
of them, Labour politicians. So my decision to take a day off social media was not a hard one. What about you?
Well, honestly, I have to say it was actually difficult to tear myself away from it because of just how pervasive the coverage was, because of the significance and the scale of this election, but also, most of all, because of the fact that we have, for the first time in America's democratic history, we have witnessed the return of a convicted felon who is facing several other criminal cases, and we've seen him come back to the White House again. So it does not seem like America has learned much from the first time around, and it does not seem to be well-meaning to really learn anything this time around either. So we'll just have to see how this particularly volatile chapter in America's history is set to evolve. And speaking of volatile situations, especially
Yes.
going back home to our continent over here, another serious news item this week that has very much gone under the radar is the collapse of Germany's federal government.
So
Michael,
we're basically making the jump from a 2-party system to a 3-party government coalition that is right now collapsing. The federal government of Germany, for example.
Yes.
It didn't exactly come as a surprise. There were already arguments particularly between Chancellor Olaf Scholz and his finance minister from the Liberal Party, Christian Lindner. What was surprising was the timing. I mean, it was the same day that Trump declared his comeback and victory. So many newsrooms didn't even have it because they had been busy for 24 hours covering the US elections. So there were arguments between Scholz and Lindner, his finance minister, who is also the party leader of the Liberals, the German FDP. And right now they should deliver next year's budget. However, Scholz sacked him, and he said he would go through a confidence vote in January. So now his critics ask the obvious question, why not immediately? However, if Scholz loses that vote, a snap election would take place by March or something.
And we cannot forget that this is actually the second major European government this year to actually call for a snap election. So I am, of course, referring to France and Emmanuel Macron's completely embattled government as we speak. We are talking about a government that effectively couldn't even manage to put a prime minister in the seat where he was meant to be. There was also several disagreements across the board between all the major parties in France in which they could not appoint an actual prime minister. So we are unfortunately in a situation where democratic instability seems to have very much become the norm.
Now something completely different. The Sicilian anti-mafia organization Fondazione Falcone is set to open its new office in Malta. Former Repubblica President Robert Aquilina will represent the foundation. The launching event in Sigiri will take place on Sunday evening, and Julian already had a chat about the foundation's plans for its operations in Malta with Robert.
Għal min ma jafx allura il-Fondazzjoni Falcone, x'inhi?
Fl-1992 finqas minn xarejn fis-Qallijan qatlu l-iktar żewġ maġistrati magħrufin għal ħidma tagħhom kontra il-mafja, Giovanni Falcone u Paolo Borsellino. Fil-xhur f'Diċembru ta' dik is-sena oħt il-Maġistrat Giovanni Falcone flimkien ma' bosta maġistrati oħra kienu waqfu din il-fondazzjoni ewlenija fl-Italja li l-iktar fondazzjoni madwar id-dinja magħrufa għall-ġlieda tagħha kontra l-kriminalità organizzata, preċiżament kontra il-mafja.
U inti minn ħatijak bħala Robert li nafuk ovvjament bħala il-President ta' Repubblika, nafuk fix-xena lokali, inti għalfejn għażilt li tingħaqad mal-Fondazzjoni Falcone?
Madwar 3 snin ilu kont irċivejt telefonata minn għandhom, minn Alessandro Delisi, kien talabni biex niltaqgħu, konna ltqajna Palermo, u minn dak iż-żmien l-għob bqajna nikkollaboraw ta' sikwiet ħafna. Jiena joġobni ħafna il-mod kif jaħdmu l-Fondazzjoni Falcone, għaliex jaħdmu ħafna fuq diplomazija kulturali. Meta ngħidu diplomazija kulturali, qegħdin nifhmu ġifieri impenn biex tinbidel il-kultura ta' soċjetà. Id-diplomazija tinkludi wkoll manifestazzjonijiet pubbliċi, ġifieri ma rridx ngħid li daw affarijiet li jsiru biss minn wara l-kwinti. Però naħseb li propju dak li konna din nippruvaw nagħmlu matul daw is-7 snin u dak li nixtieq li nkompli nagħmel fis-snin ġejjin huwa propju dan. Illi flimkien aħna ntejbu l-kultura ta' din il-pajjiż. Ntejbu l-kultura sal-punt illi dak li sabet l-inkjesta pubblika dwar l-assassin ta' Daphne Caruana Galizia dak għandna il-buħra sul isfel. B'tali mod illi żgur ma jkunx hawn kultura fejn tista' tiġi assassinata ġurnalista f'pajjiżna.
Għall-inaugurazzjoni tal-sede tal-Fondazzjoni f'Malta, inti student lill-President ta' Malta, l-Eċċellenza tagħha Mirjam Spiteri de Bono. X'kien il-ħsieb tiegħek li wara din l-istedina lill-President ta' Malta?
Aħna dejjem xtaqna illi nibnu relazzjoni mill-qrib ta' kooperazzjoni ma' kemm jista' jkun entitajiet tal-Istat Malti, istituzzjonijiet tal-Istat Malti. Għal din l-inaugurazzjoni stidilna lill-Eċċellenza tagħha l-President Mirjam Spiteri de Bono biex proprju tkun hi li tinawgura dan l-uffiċċju u b'sodisfazzjon kbir irrid ngħid li l-Eċċellenza tagħha aċċettat laqat mill-ewwel din l-istedina u għamlet dan b'entużjażmu kbir. Dan jimlina b'kuraġġ kbir għaliex li ikonna il-kap tal-Istat illi għall-ewwel darba f'dawn is-7 snin taffronta il-figura ta' Daphne Caruana Galizia. Kif nemmen illi għandu jiġri f'kull soċjetà demokratika madwar id-dinja fejn isiru affarijiet koroħ bħal dawn. U allura illi taffronta il-figura erojka ta' Daphne Caruana Galizia b'mod ċar ħafna bil-preżenza tagħha għalija dan se jkun pass storiku li jenna nixtiequh li fl-aħħar ser iseħħ. U nemmen illi dan se jkollu żewġ vantaġġi ewlenin. L-ewwel nett pajjiżna għandu bżonn jibda jkollu forma ta' closure fir-rigward tal-assassinju ta' Daphne Caruana Galizia. Naturalment closure issir fost l-oħrajn bil-proċessi tal-qrati. Però closure isseħħ ukoll permezz tad-diskors pubbliku, speċjalment diskors ta' istituzzjonijiet tal-Istat. U li jkollna l-kap tal-Istat li propju titkellem b'mod ċar bil-preżenza tagħha fuq dan l-assassinju għalija huwa pass fundamentali. It-tieni nett jiena dejjem xtaqt nagħmel ċar kemm jista' jkun li aħna l-ġlieda tagħna favur id-demokrazija, favur is-saltna ta' dritt, favur il-ġustizzja, ġlieda li qed nagħmlu minn ġewwa l-Istat Malti għal benefiċċju tal-Istat Malti. U il-fatt li l-eċċellenza tagħha l-President ħadd onorana bil-preżenza tagħha u ħadd inawgura istess dan l-ewwel uffiċċju tal-Fondazzjoni Falcone barra mill-Italja propju f'Malta għalija dak u pass ċar u sinifikattiv ħafna.
Pala respons mill-pubbliku, kif kien sissa minn duħrix l-ewwel announcement rigward din l-inaugurazzjoni l-ħassieħna l-ħadd?
Irrid ngħid li ċertu entużjażmu, għandna ħafna persuni li diġà konfermaw li se jattendu nhar il-ħadd għall-inaugurazzjoni ta' din is-sede. Apparti minn hekk, sibt ħafna kooperazzjoni u ħafna għajnuna. Naturalment dawn l-affarijiet jiswew daqsxejn flus mhux ħażin, u sibt ħafna persuni illi volontarjaw illi jgħinu f'din l-organizzazzjoni. U dan naturalment jimlina b'koraġġ kbir.
And we will be right back with the second part of this interview. Also coming up, is the government failing to retrieve those millions that were stolen from you in the hospitals deal? And Clayton Bartolow's apology for giving a phantom job to his girlfriend across the ministry.
It's now or never.
Please support our joint crowdfunding campaign.
We promise you that the only adverts you'll see on our show will consist of just our own fundraiser.
And our own interviews. Let's watch the second part of your interview with Robert Aquilina.
Allura, mill-operazzjoni ta' Fondazzjoni Falcone f'Malta, x'għandna nistennew eżatt, x'ħajkun xogħolkom hawnhekk?
Ħaġa li nixtiequ nifoka fuqha hija li nindirizzaw sitwazzjoni li jien jidhirli illi għandna bżonn nifokaw iktar fuqha. Jiġifieri jien naħseb illi f'dawn is-7 snin kellna sitwazzjoni u għandna sitwazzjoni fejn hawn realtajiet differenti tas-soċjetà Maltija illi jien ċerti li huma magħmula minn nies ta' rieda tajba li però mhux qed jitkellmu bejniethom. Inkluż persuni fl-istituzzjonijiet tal-Istat. U allura aħna rridu naħdmu permezz tad-diplomazija kulturali biex daw il-persuni, daw il-realtajiet differenti fis-soċjetà Maltija jitkellmu bejniethom. Fl-inaugurazzjoni ħajkun hawn nhar il-ħadd spektrum wiesa tas-soċjetà Maltija. Ħajkun hawn persuni, ħajkun qabel xejn il-kap tal-Istat, ħajkun hawn l-Arċisqof Charles Scicluna, ħajkun hawn l-Ombudsman, se jkun hawn il-Kummissarju tal-Standards fil-ħajja pubblika, ħajkun hawn bosta ambaxxaturi u ħajkun hawn persuni mis-soċjetà Maltija illi naħseb illi parti sostanzjali minnhom sissa ma kinux qegħdin ikunu preżenti f'attivitajiet illi jiena kont involut fihom sissa. U allura jien naħseb illi wasal iż-żmien illi din ir-realtà nindirizzawha. Għaliex jiena nemmen illi ħafna mill-problemi ta' daw il-pajjiż imorru lura għal komuni. Jiġifieri governanza ħażina. U l-governanza ħażina tiġi għaliex ma jkunx hawn konsensus wiesa fis-soċjetà tal-bżonn biex jittieħdu rimedji għal dik ir-realtà. Allura hekk pereżempju aħna nitkellmu fuq problemi ambjentali, hekk nitkellmu fuq problemi pereżempju fil-qasam tas-saħħa, hekk nitkellmu fuq problemi f'dak li għandu x'jaqsam pereżempju ma' bini u ħafna problemi oħra jiena nemmen illi daw għandhom kollha l-erq tagħhom fil-governanza ħażina. Allura hemm bżonn illi nibdew nitkellmu iktar bej realtajiet differenti tas-soċjetà Maltija. Dik hi priorità li żgur naħanna ser nagħtu. Apparti minn hekk, naħseb illi hemm bżonn illi nirripożizzjonaw ruħna mhux biss fl-ottika ta' dak li nagħmlu, imma anka fil-messaġġ illi aħna nagħtu hemm barra lin-nies li jsegwuna. Jiena nemmen illi f'Malta inżerat żerrija qawwija ħafna ta' patriottiżmu fals, ta' dak li hu l-kuntrarju tal-patriottiżmu. U sfortunatament il-patriottiżmu tħalla f'idejn estremisti, f'idejn persuni li jagħmlu ħsara fil-fema tiegħi lis-soċjetà tagħna bħalma jagħmlu persuni oħra barra Malta ħsara lis-soċjetajiet tagħhom. Jiena nemmen li dak li nagħmlu aħna huwa fost l-ogħla forma ta' patriottiżmu. U allura naħseb wasal iż-żmien li dik nindirizzawha, illi nagħmluha ċara li l-ġlieda tagħna għall-ġustizzja, għall-verità, għall-governanza tajba, dik hija ġlieda favur is-soċjetà tagħna għaliex jekk aħna nindirizzaw daw il-problemi, aħna nkunu qegħdin intejbu l-kwalità tal-ħajja tal-Maltin u tal-Awċin kollha ta' kull min jgħix f'pajjiżna.
Il-mistoqsija tiegħi li jmiss kienet se tkun fuq x'inhu l-għan primarju tagħkom f'Malta, però milli għaddi kif għad li naħseb nkun korrett jekk ngħid li tixtiequ tippreżentaw front unit kontra l-korruzzjoni, qed nifhem sew?
Iva, jiena naħseb ukoll li matul dawn is-snin diviżjonijiet frivoli intużaw anka minn min irid jiggarantixxi illi jibqa' jgawdi l-impunità sabiex ikun hemm ċerta nuqqas, ma ngħidx diverġenzi imma nuqqas ta' kooperazzjoni bejn realtajiet differenti fis-soċjetà Maltija. U allura dik ħad tkun waħda mill-għanijiet primarji tagħna. Naturalment, il-vantaġġ illi għandna il-Fondazzjoni Falcone li issa ħajkollha bażi tagħha f'Malta hija wkoll illi nistgħu nibbenefikaw mill-esperjenza u min-netwerk illi din il-fondazzjoni għandha. Il-Fondazzjoni Falcone imma magħmula anke minn ħafna maġistrati u mħalfin. Hemm kooperazzjoni u qurbija kbira mal-forzi tal-Ordni Taljani, jiena meta mmur għall-attivitajiet tal-Fondazzjoni Falcone madwar jkun mimli kollu pulizija ġenerali tal-Armata. U allura jiena naħseb illi nistgħu ngħinu biex anka l-liġijiet ta' pajjiżna ikonna input tal-esperjenza vasta illi għandhom l-awtoritajiet ma' speċjali Taljani fil-ġlida kontra l-kriminalità organizzata. Jiena ċert illi aħna nistgħu anka nikkonvinċu lil ċerti awtoritajiet Maltin sabiex aħna nkunu nistgħu niffaċilitaw ċertu kooperazzjoni biex intejbu l-istrutturi tagħna.
Minn dak li qed ngħidu huwa pjuttost ovvja li qegħdin li f'sitwazzjoni fejn għandna bżonn kambjament politiku drastiku ħafna f'Malta. Inti dan il-kambjament politiku kif timmaġinah jew forsi tixtieq li għandu jkun?
Qabel xejn jiena naħseb illi llum il-ġurnata sar ovvju illi hawn maġġoranza kbira ta' Maltin u Awċin illi jirrikonoxxu li pajjiżna ma jinsabx f'qata tajba, illi hawn problemi serji illi issa ilhom bosta snin magħna. Fl-istess ħin hija ovvja li hawn bżonn soluzzjoni politika. U soluzzjoni politika bil-fors tfisser li hawn bżonn li jkun hawn viżjoni politika illi imbagħad tissarraf fi strateġija politika biex dik il-viżjoni tiġi implementata. Jiena naħseb illi hemm bżonn illi l-partiti politiċi, speċjalment dawk tal-oppożizzjoni, jiffurmulaw strateġija politika li toffri soluzzjonijiet fl-oqsma li dwarhom qed nitkellmu, fl-oqsma pereżempju tal-ġustizzja. U allura nara pereżempju illi għandna sistemi li huma arkaiċi u li żgur mhumiex suffiċjenti biex tiġi miġġielda l-kriminalità organizzata. Jiena ċert illi il-fatt li għandna istituzzjonijiet tal-infurzar tal-liġi li huma deboli jagħmel lil pajjiżna attraenti ħafna biex iservi ta' bażi u anke biex jiġi sfruttat minn organizzazzjonijiet kriminali barranin bla ma l-awtoritajiet Maltin ixommuhom. U allura huwa meħtieġ illi l-klassi politika toħroġ b'soluzzjonijiet li jiena ċert illi jeżistu, anka billi naraw x'jiġri barra minn Malta, biex propju din is-sitwazzjoni tiġi irranġata. Jiena konvint li fil-mument li l-klassi politika se toħroġ dawn soluzzjonijiet, jien konvint li ħajkun hawn maġġoranza ta' Maltin u Għawċin illi ħajinġibdu lejn dawk is-soluzzjonijiet u jagħtu l-fiduċja tagħhom għal dawk il-forzi politiċi li propju joffrulhom din il-way forward, din is-soluzzjoni biex noħorġu barra minn dan l-isqaq li pajjiżna sfortunatament iddaħħal fih.
Speaking of this country's political crisis, here's our final rundown for this week's episode. We will first start by talking about the latest updates on the hospital's concession case. On Monday, State Advocate Chris Soller dismissed the opposition's argument that his office is duty-bound to take action to recoup money that went down the drain as a result of the fraudulent illegal concession. Soller claims that his office does not have the legal standing to commit to that course of action and that he would be overstepping power boundaries if he did so. Meanwhile, Justice Minister Jonathan Attard and Home Affairs Minister Byron Camilleri got very busy with mocking the opposition in a press conference about a leaked budget document. Never mind, of course, that the country is going through a never-ending rule of law crisis. In this press conference, they refused to clearly reply to the press's questions about whether the government has actually filed a claim in Stewart Healthcare's ongoing bankruptcy proceedings in the US. The Justice Minister vaguely implied that the government is leaving the process in the hands of specialized lawyers who are assisting with the case and that the deadline for filing a claim, which technically expired 4 days ago, can be extended. Why is the Justice Minister being so vague? Was the government even aware of this deadline? Michael, what do you make of this whole mess?
I mean, everything here suggests that they were not so much aware of the deadline, and of course, typical Labour administration in transparency. They don't even inform the general public of what they are doing to retrieve those 400 million euros.
Definitely.
You know, they don't report about it, they don't talk about it, and if they get asked by journalists, they don't even know what to answer sometimes. Or appear not to know what to answer, or they just don't answer.
They just refer to, sometimes they do refer to the international arbitration proceedings, which are ongoing in a closed court, which we know absolutely nothing about, which basically leaves us exactly where we are as of today, knowing absolutely nothing about what this government is actually doing to recover the lost money that was stolen from you, from me, and from every taxpayer in Malta, including Rio over here. So, moving on to another item which I wanted to discuss.
The girlfriend saga.
We cannot obviously finish this episode. You thought that maybe perhaps Clayton Bartolo was going to get away with that? Not at all. Michael, would you do me the favor of summarizing what happened?
What can I say? Clayton Bartolo hired his girlfriend, as we all know, and it was in fact a phantom job. She never worked there, and there is no evidence that suggests she ever even went there to do something.
But Prime Minister Roberta Bella told us that she did send loads of emails. She totally was not on a phantom job. Totally.
Out of bed, maybe. I don't know.
Oof.
No, what? Can we say that in this show?
I think we can.
Yes.
I think we can. I mean, it is a well-known fact that ultimately...
Now, the best thing about all of this is as soon as the report of the Commissioner for Standards in Public Life was revealed in the Parliamentary Committee, there were immediate reactions to it. Also from the Labour Party, we had the Prime Minister saying that the apology from
Clayton Bartolo and Clint Camilleri.
Sufficient, that their apologies are sufficient, and that now it's back to business as usual. That is actually the even more outrageous part of the whole story.
Which I believe leads us to the logical conclusion we can reach over here, is that if you happen to commit a crime, just make sure you apologize. And everything
do it like Rosie and Kutaya. Well,
like
she paid a political price. Don't forget that. Rosie and Kutaya paid a political price for a few months, but she did. Yet she never apologized publicly.
It's farcical. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
PLPN, please learn how to apologize to the public if you fuck up.
Seriously, get your shit together, guys.
Yes, and I think that was a nice end to our first episode of Newsweek. Hope you'll join us again next Friday at 6 p.m. Right here on our channels. Thank you very much and have a lovely week.